Welcome to the Learn Translation we have at the beginning of every one of these hatecasts. Yes, I know I need to shave. Yes, I know I need a haircut. Yes, I know I look homeless. But this is your host, Bryce Allen, here interviewing a fan. We're going to call this episode Fan Frenzy with featuring the guest name. We want to do more of these, so if you are interested in, and this is fun too, if you're interested in being on the hatecast for an episode just like this one, go ahead and contact me via either the Facebook page, Facebook secret group, Instagram, or by other means. You can even comment on this video and we'll kind of figure something out via the terrible system that is YouTube inboxing. But the show entails of Andrew and I, which the guest his name is Andrew. He wants to be called Desi Hulk. That's what we're going to do. We're going to say featuring Desi Hulk. So Andrew and I go over why veganism is bad, a little bit of chaos and pain stuff, weightlifting in general, and a little bit of gear talk for entertainment purposes only, right? Not informational, not educational, entertainment purposes only. This does not, express the viewpoints of chaos and pain LLC. Anyway, with that being said, there's a little bit of a weird sale going on over at www.chaosandpain.com. It is a 31.7% off discount code. I know those of you with OCD or have a thing against odd numbers, who like prime numbers, this is going to bug more than probably the sound of my voice, the way that I look, or the fact that I'm not Jamie. But have no fear. It'll allow you to stock up on all the protein powder that we have now back in stock over at www.chaosandpain.com. Every single protein powder, all in stock. So, without further ado, enjoy our first Fan Frenzy. I thought I was going to do a cool transition, and then I realized I don't really put that much effort into editing, so you're just going to have to deal with this and then the intro song. I'm your host, Bryce Allen, and this is the Hatecast. So, today I'm joined by somebody a little bit different. Would you tell everybody your name real quick?
My name is Andrew, but I go by on Facebook by the Desi Hulk, which means the brown or the Indian Hulk.
Oh, the Indian Hulk. Okay.
Yeah.
So, just so you guys are aware, something I want to start doing with this particular podcast is we will have Jamie on, we will have Ed on, we will have other people kind of in the industry on. But sometimes, just like with everybody, every gym bro, everybody has a story, right? Somebody got into lifting somehow, and somebody stuck with it somehow, right? And sometimes those are a little bit more interesting than, I started out in high school, and then I continued doing it, and then, So, let's hear yours. So, what got you into lifting?
Honestly, it was really two things. I was always active as a young kid, and I first started by playing football and wrestling. I started wrestling at like 10, and I was always the strongest kid. Like, I could pick up and suplex my dad when I was 12, and when he was a fully grown man.
Yeah.
But the main thing that started wrestling is once I started going in Canada, especially in Quebec, the province that I'm in, high school works a little bit differently. So basically, high school is from grade 7 to grade 11.
Right.
And then you go to something called CEGEP, which is kind of like a junior college, which would be equivalent to maybe grade 12 and grade 13, and then you go on to university.
Okay, so
essentially,
just for the American audience, so grade 7 to 11, what age range would that be?
That's anywhere between 12 to 17 or 13 to 18.
Gotcha,
it depends on if you're a smart kid in school or if you got held back a little bit.
We've all been there.
So essentially, when I turned 15, I for some reason started putting on a shitload of weight. Like, I literally put on like 100 pounds over the course of the summer.
Okay.
And I couldn't really explain why. And obviously got a little depressed. And there was this one of my best friends at school was this really cute Italian girl. Her name was Sabrina, and I had the biggest crush on her. And one of the things she said that also kind of pushed me towards lifting was, "You're a really nice guy, and I like you if only if you were thinner."
Ouch.
And, and I was just like, okay, cool. I mean, at least, but we were friends, so she was honest, right?
Right.
And also, I noticed that I was stronger than everybody, all my peers. Like, I would be playing football and wrestling with guys that were like good 5 years older than I am. So at 13, I could tackle guys that are 18, 19.
Right. Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know much about exercise, but I mean, I saw a picture of Ed Cohen
Right. Right.
just was running through YouTube, and I was just like, I want to look like that guy. You know, he was
Yeah.
very strong and muscular, and he was lifting up weights, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. So in my high school, they had a really old, dingy weight room with those 1970s dumbbells that kind of look like cannonballs in the end with the thin little handle, these Popeyes
Right. Right. Right.
dumbbells, and
Circus
they also
dumbbells.
had
Yeah.
exactly Marcus dumbbells, and they were really odd. Like the one was it ranged from 30 to 100, but like they only had one 30-pound dumbbell, one 50-pound dumbbell, so you had to do a lot of unilateral stuff. And they had the vertical leg press, the old school plate loaded vertical leg
Right.
press, where
Right.
you put your legs all the way up. So I'm like, that's why when you say like you used to be morbidly obese, I kind of know what that feels like, because I still feel like I'm a big fat kid at heart. That's why I love to eat, and that's why
Now,
I
what were you weighing at that point, and what was your height? Just to give people an idea.
I was 5'4", 250, man.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I get you now. So yeah, you were basically a keg with legs,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that made you good at football too. I'm sure. I'm sure.
yeah, I mean, I could
Yeah.
move things. I had tremendous upper body strength and lower body strength, but
Yeah.
my stomach was all kinds of round. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna lose weight. And the first thing I did, and this is when I realized, when you talk about losing weight is not that big of a deal, when it's putting on muscle is a lot harder. I just stopped eating junk food altogether.
Would you look at that? I mean, the simple little changes that you can implement turn out to make big differences when it comes to weight loss
I
anyway.
stopped. I replaced soda with water. And even on the off chance that I would have Doritos, when you actually look at the bag and it says 28 pieces for like this amount of servings, my
Mhm.
sister thought that that's how I was retarded, because I would actually count my Doritos out. It was literally,
Ah.
and I joined the track team, so we'd be training 5 days a week, 3 hours before school. School started around 8 o'clock. We'd get there by 5,
Right.
and we'd do sprints and running, and we'd do a lot of I did a lot of the field events like javelin, shot put, discus. We would do a lot of that. And then when we had lunchtime, I would go to the weight room and train, and after school I would stay back a couple hours to train. So essentially, I was training 3 times a day for
Right.
7 days, 5 days a week. And not to mention, then I also grew up in an all-black neighborhood, which is predominantly Jamaican, so I would be playing basketball for extra cardio. So when
Right.
people talk about overtraining, and I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, I know Jamie has said this many times, and I'll reiterate. We're meant to do violent things with our bodies. I mean, there's stories of people when we're a farming community working hours at a time. I mean, wrestlers in India and Greece, they would train 7 hours a day for 7 days a week. So when people talk about overtraining, I don't understand this mentality.
My favorite part is when people have these grandpas or these dads or whatever that have these massive muscles, right? I mean, for people that don't lift, I mean, their forearms are jacked.
Yeah,
And they talk about him, and they're like, "Oh man, I must have good genetics. My grandpa, blah blah blah. He was a something like a pipe layer or a bricklayer, or somebody who works a very physical job. Oh, but I don't want to train more than 4 days a week because I think I'm gonna overtrain." And it's like, you were just gushing over your grandpa, who, by the way, worked for 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, doing very repetitive movement, which got him his massive forearms. You were just gushing over that, but you don't want to go in there and do the work. Okay. Okay, I got your number now.
Ridiculous. No, it was ridiculous. Me and you, we've talked about privately about epigenetics, and that is a thing, okay? The stronger and the more physically fit you could be while reproducing, you give your kids a better chance at being that. But again,
yes,
all those kids have is a good head up, but you still have to bust your butt.
Right. And with epigenetics too, a lot there's 20 or 80% of your height that's actually inherited, and then 20% is due to environmental factors, what you eat, your nutrients, and all that crap. Right. So,
no, absolutely.
Along with muscle and muscle size, bone density, all that crap, some of that's genetic and some of that's environmental. So you got to raise your kids right too when it comes to getting the right nutrients and all that stuff in.
I mean, absolutely.
But you know, you had a leg up too, because you know the way you were talking about the way you ate when you were growing up was healthy. You know.
I'll be honest, my parents were really, my mom always cooked, my dad always cooked, and basically I had a fond understanding for food and spices, and which we'll get into a little bit later on. I just want to finish this rant because this is my first time in the hatecast. Thank you for having me, and I want to make sure that I do a good enough job. I was actually asking JB for tips. He's like, just be yourself, man, it'll be fine.
It's just a conversation, man.
Exactly. So when people talk about overtraining, and I'm like, there is no such thing. It's either you're undersleeping or undereating, or maybe you need to go see either a physio or a chiropractor, because it could be the fact that there's something not aligned properly in your body, and especially in a world that we live in where 90%, 80% of people have sedentary jobs, sitting on chairs all the time. It may very well be, or the way you sleep, because a lot of people will sleep on their stomach or on their sides, whereas actually you're supposed to sleep like on your back, traditionally.
Right.
And you're not supposed to have such a soft mattress. But speaking of that, I have to give a shout out to my friend Guy Razzie Physio in Montreal. This man is a genius. I have been training with basically a fuse. There's something in my neck was fused, and I didn't realize. Every time I would turn my neck this way, it would just make that noise. And I've been training like that for the last 3 years, pulling like 200-300 plus pounds with my neck, and you know those sleds where you could do like with your hamstrings, but just pulling back, like like grabbing the chain and just pulling back.
Right.
I would attach that to my neck, and I would pull back with them until he was training with me, and he's like, "Dude, why is your neck making that noise? That can't be good." So he cracked it 2 months ago, and then I've been that and with.
Hold on just a second, man.
The best night's sleep that I've ever had.
We had a
little
hiccup. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Things seem to be stabilizing. Go ahead. It was an internet issue. Go ahead.
Okay, so essentially, my buddy Guy Razzie Fitness, and basically physio in Montreal. Amazing guy, knows what he's doing. I've had a neck thing, which I didn't even realize. Every time I would rotate my neck towards my right, it would just snap, like somebody's like, you know?
Right.
And I've been doing a lot of neck. I do a lot of neck work being a wrestler, and I was pulling 300 plus pounds and pulling a sled that's 500 pounds with my neck, walking backwards. And he's like, "Why is your neck making that retarded noise?" And I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "You need to come into my office like tomorrow and we'll fix this in 20 minutes. And he's like, he was feeling around my neck. He's like, "Man, your neck's really jacked up. I mean, you're a freak in nature," because most people would have had like some sort of like a herniation, or they would have to have a neck cast.
Yeah,
so essentially he popped it back.
Ed actually had some neck issues, so yeah, I get what you mean there. So
I've been living with this for 3 to 5 years, and I didn't even notice. And he's like, "We've been friends for like almost 10. What the hell?" And since he cracked it, it's because of that and the hypnos. My sleep is much better, but also I changed the way I sleep. I sleep with my back now, and that's also leads into my rant about overtraining. You're not eating enough, or you're not sleeping enough, man.
Yeah.
Like the human body was meant to endure. Most of our ancestors were hunter and gatherers, and they walked for miles at a time, like tens or maybe even hundreds of miles at a time. So like when people talk about overtraining, I don't understand what they're talking about.
Yeah. You know, I will say that I think the more modern human needs a little bit more sleep than the humans did back in yesteryear, just because we seem to have a consensus on 6 to 8 hours, possibly more for certain individuals, like very very few people. Seems to be the right spot, and that's why hypnosis is important, because you need sleep and all that jazz. But you can, I did want to mention that you can actually make up for sleep. For those of you who do have, busy days or something like that, you can actually take a nap for 30 minutes, an hour, something like that, and actually make up that sleep deficit, as long as you sleep in during the weekends, or at least get as much as you can. So,
absolutely.
I think sleep is severely underutilized in this industry. They think you can sleep when you're dead. Well, yeah, but you also won't be so massive.
You will be dead. You will be dead. I mean, the risk of not getting enough sleep has been linked to cancer and various other things. Like literally, like they've done this on mice where they have injected. And actually, one of the people that I also like to follow on YouTube is this sleep researcher and also like basically researcher on diet from UCLA named Dr. Sachin Panda. And we'll get into his work a lot more.
Yeah.
And there was a test done in UCLA where they injected two groups of mice, both of them with a specific type of bone cancer, okay? One of the mice, they let them get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep on a daily basis, and another one, they would just keep on disturbing them halfway through. In about a month, the mice that got enough sleep, their bodies were able to absorb the cancer cell. And the mice that didn't, this cancer cell started forming around their bone, and it was actually pushing upward. So that just goes to show, like, sleep is very anabolic. People eat well, they take supplements, they take anabolics, but they lack sleep. And I'm just like, sleeping is the most anabolic thing, aside from maybe consuming necessary amounts of protein, thing that you could do for your body. Why would you not?
Yeah, and something people even taking anabolics should be doing is sleeping, just because if you're taking anabolics and you're trying to grow and you're not sleeping, that's a recipe for you just remaining stagnant and always being a $135, Mr. a $135 guy on the internet, who's taking a brain test. I mean, for fuck's sake, I'm a member of so many different Facebook groups that are literally just people sitting there taking grams and grams of gear. Zero gains. Zero. Nothing. And it's all because either they don't take their training seriously, they don't take their nutrition seriously, or they don't sleep enough. And it's nothing else, because they have the gear.
Dude,
they should be 250 pounds.
Last Saturday, I was at the gym bulk squatting, right?
Yeah.
And this guy that I knew for a while, he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, can I show you my lab results, right?"
Okay.
And I'm like, "You should be showing your doctor your lab results," but okay. This guy's cholesterol, his blood pressure, like his sugar, like his fasting sugar, everything was through the roof. And he was telling me he was taking something like 4 IUs of growth a day. Okay.
Okay. There's your sugar problem.
He was taking he was taking insulin with that. He was taking 2 grams of test and another 3 grams of combined of DECA, trinacetate, and EQ.
It's a lot of gear. And how much do you weigh?
He's 6'5", Bryce. Your height.
Okay.
Okay. He weighs $150. And I'm just like, how on earth is... And he's very proud of his 8-pack. But I'm like, bro, you're like a skeleton. And you're like borderline diabetic. And you're using insulin. And you know what was his total test? His total test was 2,000 nanograms per deciliter when he's using close to 2 grams worth of test. And I'm just telling him, it's either your gear's bunked or your body's so fucked up that it can't even process all that hormones properly. I mean, I showed him a copy of my old blood results where I was using about 200 milligrams of test every other day. Not every other day. Sorry, every 10 days leading up to a powerlifting meet. and my test levels were at 2,500 nanograms per deciliter.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that. You know, something else people don't realize when it comes to a lack of sleep plus growth hormone usage, right, can be a recipe for disaster. Because using growth hormone, you already make your cells, or let me get this, let me try and explain this for people. If you have an elevated level of growth hormone for a very long time, like let's just say 3 to 6 months, you will start running high on your fasting glucose, right? It's the same thing with these growth hormone releasing peptides because they raise IGF-1. So, by a significant amount. So you will raise your fasting blood glucose. Lack of sleep on top of that, you're going to make yourself diabetic. Using insulin on top of that, you're going to make your cells insulin resistant, which means after you come off the shit, you're going to be diabetic. That's how a lot of these guys, these pros, turn diabetic, is they usually end up using growth hormone, insulin, IGF-1, all these things that raise IGF-1. And when in actuality, like, if you look at most of the bodybuilders from the 90s, they didn't use much growth hormone, if any at all, and they just used gear. I'm not sure the exact mechanisms, but there does seem to be a high correlation behind the use of growth hormone and insulin, and both the growth of organs, right? So the bubble gut and all that shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
With along with being diabetic later in life. So be careful out there, guys.
And it's a vicious cycle because, as soon as you start taking growth hormone, you have to start taking insulin because growth hormone by itself will make you desensitized to insulin. So you need to take insulin. And anybody who's not type 2 diabetic, and even for type 2 diabetics, they don't want to give out insulin right away. They will give you a drug like metformin to help you control that, along with diet, before they give you insulin.
Also, by the way, guys, before we go further, these viewpoints do not align with that of Chaos and Pain LLC, and this is for entertainment purposes only. So,
oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, I noticed that, and you know, it's something to do with people reading what growth hormone does in the body, and them reading about what insulin does in the body, and they're like, oh, more of this must be better. When in actuality, sometimes you can cause unforeseeable. It's kind of like, and this may be a little bit of an aside, but it's kind of like people messing around with genetics when it comes to things like CRISPR. Whenever you like, let's just say your genetics are on a sliding scale, right? So you pull one down, another one goes up, right? So if you make someone more resistant to HIV, all of a sudden they're more prone to catching polio. Something like that, right? It's totally unrelated, but it's a balancing act.
Something has to give somewhere. So I was telling this guy, how much sleep do you get? And he's like, on a good day, maybe 6 hours. And I'm like, okay, why? He's like, and as he's doing this, you ever heard of the pre-workout Mr. Hyde?
I have, yeah.
Okay, awesome pre-workout. Like, by the way, speaking of pre-workouts, the Cannibal Riot, I don't know what the mechanisms are, but this just makes me into a savage. Like, I'm already a savage, but ever since I started taking it, I have steadily become leaner. I mean, I do a lot of other things, but this has played a big part. So I want to tell people, like, you're not paying me anything to cast, and it's not paying me anything to do this. It's just a really good pre-workout.
No, so they don't pay me enough to advertise.
It's just a really good product, but he was taking 4 scoops of pre-workout every time he trained. It's like, not only that, so you're just killing your adrenal glands. So that's just great.
Well, to go back to the balancing act, you know, just like with those genetics, sometimes taking, you know, taking gear is a balancing act. Whenever you take too much of something, another thing will go. Just like, you know, people with taking Trin and Insomnia. Well, playing with your sleep and playing with your training, like if you're not training intensely, all of a sudden, you know, it's that same balancing act. If you're not sleeping enough, the muscle that you want is not going to come. So, man, it just bugs me. I'm a member of so many of those Facebook groups where I see these guys on a gram of test and they can't even break the 200 barrier. It just bugs me.
I physically get sick whenever I go above 600 mgs of test.
Yeah.
Like I physically feel ill. Like for me, the sweet spot whenever I'm on, it's either between 100, 150 to 200 every 2 weeks as a TRT dosage. By the way, I'm 35, so I'll let people know. I only started taking gear on and off since the last 3 years. So when I was
Right.
32, and I'll probably be now on. I get my blood work done, but I'll probably be on blast and cruise phase for about the next year or so. I only blast for about 3 months out of the year, and the rest of the year I'm just cruising.
Yeah.
That's just what works for me. Again, I do not recommend this. Like, talk to your doctor. In Canada, the rules are a little bit different. You don't necessarily have to have a prescription to use it. As long as you're not caught buying and selling, you're good. So, for those of you who are in Montreal, please, I don't want you to get arrested. I don't want you to get in trouble. I don't want you to say Andrew or Kelson paid advocating drug use, because I don't and we don't. It's just a decision I've made after at least almost about 2 decades of weight training as an adult. You have to be an adult, like biologically, over the age of 25 when your like central nervous system and endocrine system has formed. So please don't do anything stupid. Just this is for entertainment purposes only. So this dude is only 21, man.
He should be growing naturally by himself without anything. And he's 6'5". He's 21. He's 6'5". You know, he could have grown another 2 inches. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You're selling yourself short.
And I asked him, where does he get the money? And it's like his parents are willing to give it to him.
Oh, get wrecked. What?
Mm.
Using mommy and
His
daddy's
parents are willing
money?
to give it to.
Okay.
Like he stays in this in Montreal. We have this area called Westmount. That's where a lot of the Montreal Canadian hockey players live, and a lot of the rich people live. So you have houses that go up to, man, like 2, 3, 4, 5 million. And
Right.
I've been to his house. It's a $5 million mansion, and it's like his parents are willing to give it to him because apparently it keeps him out of trouble. So I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Okay, whatever. So I'm not. So that having said, I was just like, hey man, you need to stop taking everything. You literally need to, like, I mean, get some PCT, start eating properly. I mean, I don't start sleeping. And he did not believe me that I was 35, and I'm like, listen, man, if you keep this up, you're not gonna live to see my age, and if you do, it's going to be a really sad, pathetic existence, because it's just really not cool what you're doing to your body.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was that discussion.
Yeah, to kind of get back on topic, man, because we've been accused before. I don't know if you know this, but we tend to get off topic a little bit.
Yeah. So anyways, but what I also want to talk to you about my experiences as a vegan lifter, and I was a vegan lifter from basically from shit. That was a while ago. From basically 2013 to 2015.
Right.
Okay.
Kind of around the height of the popularity of veganism.
Oh yeah, but I just did it because I just want to experiment with myself. Because my argument was,
I did the same thing.
Yeah, if you had elite level genetics, you should still be able to grow under any diet. And one of my friends, she's like, well, notice most of the dumb shit that I end up doing is because of women.
So you're a man.
Yeah, exactly. So she was like, all right, go 2 years as a vegan. I'm like, well, let me transition from a vegetarian to a vegan. So here's what I've noticed in short. If you're a vegan, and especially I'm referring this to people that are from India, where basically a good 40% of the country is vegetarian or vegans, right? It is very possible to grow significant muscle mass if you have the genetics to do so naturally on a vegetarian diet, because you're still getting in your B vitamins through the animal protein like yogurt, milk, and clarified butter ghee is an ultimate source for anybody who wants to go keto. It'll help raise your good cholesterol. It'll help raise your basically to natural testosterone. It'll help lubricate your joints. It's overall a strength food, and it's also been used as medicine in Ayurvedic science, which is basically the ancient Indian book of medicine. Veganism, however, it is retarded, man.
Yeah.
Because for me, when I was eating meat, My sugar level was fine. Everything was fine. When I was a vegetarian, it was fine. 2 years into me becoming a vegan, I went from 225 to 285.
Right.
I was I was benching 500 plus pounds, but my blood sugar level was that of almost borderline diabetic.
Right.
And my doctor was actually getting concerned about that, so he kind of prescribed me metformin for like the last year because he's like, if you're gonna go through this stupid diet, at least take this.
Right.
The only reason I didn't become diabetic is because I was training 6 times a week of heavyweight training.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. You know,
And
that's the thing I kind of wanted to bring up with you. So you went vegan because you wanted to try it. Well, I mean, was it for ethical issues? Was it for health issues? I mean, usually people have to have a reason to kind of go on it. Did you just want to try it and see if it worked? I mean, what went on
I
there?
just wanted to like, cause okay, so okay, so in my family we're big meat eaters. Okay,
Right.
That's the fact of the matter is 60% of India that's vegan, that's vegetarian, not vegan, fuck, meat eaters.
Right.
They're comprised of four states. West Bengal
Right.
and Bangladesh is one of them. Like 98% of the people are non-vegetarians, right?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, it wasn't for moral reasons or ethical reasons. I just want to see, well, vegans always claim that they're healthier and they're better and they'll live longer. I'm like, oh, well, you know what? Let's give it a try. Let's see what it is. I don't want to be one of those meat eaters that says that all vegans are idiots without actually even trying it, right?
Yeah.
So I did this for a while, and I'm just like, this is not for me. I was going to like something retire like 5 to 6 pounds of almonds a day, bro.
Yeah. That's a crazy amount. Yeah. You know,
And there's only so much tofu and tempeh you could eat.
not anymore for me. I had to put down the tofu, but that's because I had a run in with Chinese food when I was younger. So
Yeah. Enough said.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, something I'm kind of glad you brought up the vegan because I don't think we've ever gone over the different reasons why people go vegan on this podcast before. So I will say that if you're doing it for health reasons, you can go ahead and try it out. I know that people with autoimmune disorders and those unexplained weird things that happen in the human body, right? So some idiopathic thing that's happening, right? That means for no reason. Those can sometimes be improved with a vegan diet. I know that some people with autoimmune disorders like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis can actually see some benefit. For people who are, you know, have no problems with dairy, have no problems with meat, have no problems with everything, I would highly suggest you do your research before you hop on a vegan diet. Now, the interesting thing is for ethical reasons. So don't live in a fucking house if you want to be vegan for ethical reasons, because you're supporting the machine that kills the animals.
Oh my god, thank you. Like, this is what people don't realize.
Paint is made of animals.
Like, I used to go hunting with my dad, okay? And my logic is, if you kill a deer to feed your family, you're killing that one deer. And generally, like, all hunters will kill the weakest animals, so that way the herd has the time to regenerate and get stronger. When you're just, forget pain, when you want that tofu sandwich, you know how much rodents and bunny rabbits and groundhogs are being mauled in those extractors? Are you kidding me?
Hey man, using logic in a thing like that. What are you doing?
And then Monsanto comes in and poisons the fuck out of everything else, so you kill more insects. So, literally, you guys, I've met only 2 well-adjusted vegans in my life.
Right.
One of them works in a nutritional store called Popeyes we have up in Canada.
Right.
Super nice guy. His name is Rudy, but he's on SARMs. And he's told me that he's like 22.
Right.
He's on MK and all that stuff. And he's told me, like, when he was in his teens, he was using juice. So I'm like, okay. And a second was a bikini competitor that also works in Popeyes, but I'm not really sure how well just you could be if you do those retarded competitions because of all the dietary problems they have and the reverse dieting and all that nonsense. So, okay, let's say
Right.
one well-adjusted person. And to me, you cannot be a vegan body unless if you have retardedly good base. And I've never seen a grassroots vegan athlete, somebody who has fed a vegan diet all their life since inception and grew up to be big and strong. A lot of these athletes who still have residual muscle mass and are able to train, or they were carnivores or they were non-vegans, and they built their base and they went on their way. And
Right.
one thing people don't realize is a lot of these vegan bodybuilders are on significant amount of drugs.
You know, drugs aside, I will say that just because there's one person to prove your point, like I had an uncle that smoked for all of his life, and he went off of cigarettes, and the doctor, you know, because he had to go into a nursing home before he passed, and he had just immediately a week later had pink lungs. The doctor went, "What the hell?" Like, fine. So does that mean smoking's not bad? Of course, fucking
No.
not. That means that he was a freak of nature. You know.
Yeah.
Everybody in my mother's side of her family seems to adjust to smoking well. It's weird. It's weird. Okay, mind you. Not saying smoke is good. You shouldn't smoke. But for her family, not that bad. So, for people with veganism, same thing. You can name a couple different vegan athletes because they speak very, very loudly. They get up on their soapbox. They say, "I am vegan. This is what works for me. I am vegan. Everybody should be this," because they found it to be wildly successful for them. But, you know, if the people who are most successful vegan athletes are usually about 5'2", because their protein requirements are so much lower, right?
Yeah.
And they're also, as you said, on a bunch of gear. Now, I don't discredit anybody's hard work for being on gear. That's a whole nother separate
No,
subject.
that's
But
that's you still have to bust your butt, but
it
regardless.
does make things easier. For example, right? You know, that whole 30 grams of protein per meal thing, right? That's been touted. That's from a mixed source of vegetable or non-meat, non-animal byproduct protein and animal protein. So you have to have both of those in the meal, like, for example, salmon and spinach, something like that, right? Animal source and a plant source. 30 grams, you meet that leucine threshold in order to turn on protein synthesis. If you are entirely vegetarian or vegan, that leucine threshold is now a little bit higher because finding leucine in vegetables is pretty difficult, you know?
No.
So
This is why I find that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And here's the thing: vegan athletes will always be like, they'll make animal comparison. They'll be like, "Whoa, look how strong a gorilla is," and I'm like, a gorilla spends 3/4 of his days eating. Granted, we share like maybe 99% of our DNA with them, but we do not process vegetables the same way as a gorilla does.
Nope.
So, I mean, I don't even know why you're making this. I mean, it seems like they come up with the most absurd, like, logic of why people should be vegan, and they just all seem so pissed off all the time.
You know,
They're really...
you can look at cows, right? So they eat nothing but grass, and some of them are muscular as shit. They turn the fiber in grass via an enzyme. They turn cellulose into amino acids, or readily available protein, basically, right? So
Yeah.
we don't have that. We do not
No, we
have
don't.
that at all.
And we don't have multiple stomachs either.
Hey, imagine if we did. Taco Bell would be a lot easier on us.
Jeez. I'm about to kill a large pizza as soon as we finish this.
There you go. But, you know, when it comes down to it, the whole argument for veganism, if you're doing it for performance issues, I don't see a validity in that argument. I also don't see any validity in the argument of doing it for ethical reasons. Because, again, if you live in a house, if you drive a car, if you go to a gym, most of the things that are made from, you know, animal
Fossil
products, you know, and the ground that was mowed down. I mean, bacteria is a living thing. Where do you stop?
Yeah.
Where is the buck? Where do you say, you know what? this is not intelligent, or it doesn't feel enough in order for me to care about it as another human being should care about absolutely everything, because wah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So this is why I get frustrated, especially when I have a lot of the area that I train. There's a lot of Punjabis that tend to work out, and they're Sikhs, and they're super nice guys, and they're very strong. But Punjab is one of those states in India that has a high amount of vegetarians, not necessarily vegans, but vegetarians, right? And I told them, listen, I'm not saying that you can't get big and strong on a vegetarian diet. I'm just saying that if you ate meat, it would just make things a lot more easier. And I'm not saying that you would have to eat meat every day. Just have maybe some chicken once or twice a week or whatever, because they tend to be very dairy based, right? A lot of lassi, a lot of butter, a lot of yogurt. And they thoroughly get pissed off at me when I tell them that I eat beef. And they're like, well, you're a Hindu. How are you eating beef? I'm like, my dad never told me not to, and it's just more bioavailable, right?
Right.
So, and then they'll bring up this bodybuilder. Well, he's a vegetarian and he's an IFBB pro. And I'm like, he's an IFBB pro. First of all, you don't have his genetics. That's the main reason. Two, he's an IFBB pro. Do you have any idea how much drugs he takes? He's like, no, they're our heroes. They're natural. All these Bollywood actors, they're all natural. You know, they don't take any drugs.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Talking about Bollywood actors?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
And IFBB pros.
Hold on. Let's get into that. Have you seen some of the ripped motherfuckers in Bollywood films?
Absolutely.
I mean, ridiculously ripped. There's no fucking
And 10
way.
years ago, they weren't. 5 years ago, they weren't like that. And people think, well, they're young. I'm like, I'll give you one example. Shah Rukh Khan, okay?
Right.
He's a famous Bollywood actor. This guy started getting jacked 5 years ago in his 40s. Prior to that, if you go to watch any of his films from early 2000s or even late 90s, he was always kind of, not fat, but like skinny fat. He did comedy roles. You mean to tell me that he got this ripped in 5 years and got a body of somebody? He got a body of somebody who would have taken this guy like 20 years to train to get that. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, man?
Yeah. I don't get it. You know, I respect people that, I mean, they're funding some grocery stores. You know how expensive, by the way, guys, just so you're aware, there's no reason to buy organic. I've talked to a lot of people in the food industry, and the looseness of the certification for organic is a joke. Just buy whatever's cheapest. Anyway, that's another aside.
Yeah,
but
and an egg's an egg, man. I mean,
yeah,
unless you get it from the farmer himself. Like my ex, she lived up in her parents lived up in this like village in Quebec, like up north we call it. I could go to get fresh bison meat from the bison farmer, then I could say, okay, it's organic. But unless you have access to that kind of freshness, it really doesn't matter in the end.
And when it comes down to it, most people, now I'm not saying everybody, but most people is looking for the most efficient way to build muscle mass, the most efficient way to cut weight, the most efficient way to do this and that, right? Sometimes we kind of go overboard on the efficiency side, but that's another topic. You know, when it comes to the cheapest, most bioavailable food, you're looking at animal sources. You're looking at, I mean, yes, oats are a good example, but how cheap are eggs? How cheap is a gallon of milk now? You know, it's never been cheaper.
Chicken thighs, they give them away in the States and in Canada.
Yeah. I mean, you can get your protein pretty cheap, which, by the way, if you guys are interested to see a shopping on a budget video that I can do, just let me know. I've been thinking about it for a while. But yeah, it just, it doesn't make any sense to put any unnecessary stress on yourself trying to meet some artificial dietary guidelines that you, by the way, haven't. If you're not doing it for ethical reasons, you're not doing it for performance reasons, you're just doing it to try it, fine. But if you're doing it for the other two, you're spinning your wheels. I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah,
I have a question for you, Bryce, and maybe you could explain this to me, okay? So a little bit background into my training. I did strongman competitions under 230 pounds and under, and provincials, Quebec and Ontario, and I've won them. I've done powerlifting competitions. One of the competitions I've done in Iowa State Fair back in 2012, where I
Yeah.
squatted 930 at a body weight of 250 with like knee wraps, squats, and the whole shebang.
Right.
And I got invited to train in Westside Barbell for a little bit because I beat one of his top guys, whatever, and he was like, "Who the fuck are you? And you're from Canada." I thought they only played hockey in Canada, so that was an experience on its own. And so for me, my dieting, I always took it as simple, right? Carbs, protein, fats, you get your micronutrients, and to get shredded when I've gone down from 285 to 210 and I was around 10% body fat, maybe a little bit below.
Right.
I would just substitute more good quality fats and minimize the carbs as needed. But I would still eat stuff like steak and red meat. Why are most bodybuilding enthusiasts that I see that are in their late teens, early 20s and bikini competitors, why are they so scared of red meat? And what is with this just chicken breast and broccoli or chicken breast and asparagus and brown rice? Can you explain this to me?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
Okay, so certain drugs that you take, dietary fat becomes evil. So you take insulin, you're more likely to store triglycerides. So what happens is they go to a chicken breast because chicken thighs are way too fatty for them. Chicken breast, broccoli, so they just have carbs and protein and just the minimal amount of fat in order to make their body happy and their drugs happy, right? That's really the reason behind that. Now, red meat's a relatively new thing. So back in the day, even as far as, Flex Lewis, he was a big proponent of red meat. You had, Stan Efferding, of course, he has the vertical diet, which it's red meat and rice. And it's a medium fat, because he's not as afraid of it as... I think, first and foremost, I think it has to do with just that culture as well. So you hear about these bodybuilders eating chicken and rice, and you want to be a bodybuilder, so you eat chicken and rice. Imitation, kind of, right? I don't think there's any particular reason that it exists now, especially with the knowledge that we have now. But I would be guessing that it would be drugs. I mean, insulin does have that effect on making some people fat. I mean, it does. It stores both. It's very anabolic, but it's also, fat gain is an anabolic process. So,
absolutely, you need a little bit of cushion to help you lift more and to build. Now, I think also the problem maybe is a lot of the coaches that these young kids are going to prep them for shows. They're all following the same generic dieting. I mean, I've heard Dorian Yates a lot, and guys like Lee Haney, and they all had their individual diets. They knew their body, but nowadays it seems like every single coach is giving the same athletes the same drugs and literally just giving them the same diet. I had this one girl that I knew from another gym. I'm friends with her brother. She did her first bikini competition. She came in looking fantastic.
Right.
And then 2 months after the show, she put on like 30, 40 pounds. And we're not talking about like just even a little water. She became fat. So through the grapevine, I heard that her coach was giving her T3 every single day.
Right.
Leading up to her show.
That makes sense then, yeah.
And I'm just like, jeez, for the love of God, man. I mean,
so something
it makes me sad.
Something interesting about coaches nowadays, and it's the industry, right? So you have guys that are paid a lot that actually put in the work, and then you have guys that run around on fitness forums claiming that they're coaches, or Facebook groups claiming that they're coaches, giving people a simple cut and paste protocol. So they feel that if this person or they themselves reacted well to chicken and rice, then their clients will as well, no matter what their issues. There's a lot of individual response when it comes to things, including drugs. I mean, you yourself, you were talking to me about, only on 150 megs, and you're, 2100,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Whereas somebody like somebody who is a poor responder, somebody who went through growth hormone deficiency early in their life or what have you, right? they would be a much poorer responder to that amount of test. So it is all just a copy and paste industry, because you can sell your booty blaster plan on Instagram for, $50, $25, $10, whatever. Sell that to 100 people and make that booty blasting money. That's it. Real coaches will specifically tailor your shit. The coaches that you run across in fitness forums and stuff like that, they'll most likely rip you off and cookie cutter,
And I've been fortunate to run across through my career. I've been fortunate to run across very good coaches. What was his name? Charles Poliquin. I got certified under him, and I got to meet him about 12 years ago. And this man, I would say, and he died, and I actually mourned because he was a really good mentor to me.
Yeah.
This man, he said, listen, any of you morons that take my training and train two people the same way, you're disrespecting me, because everybody's built internally completely different. Their muscle insertions, their tendons, their ligaments, even to a point where what drugs they should be on. As a trainer, your job is to listen to your clients and listen what they have to say and give them positive feedback and see what works and what doesn't. Just because this guy's on a grandma test doesn't mean that this guy really needs a grandma test.
Yeah. No, I completely
And he also didn't
agree.
believe in reverse dieting. He also didn't believe in reverse dieting, because he's like, you should never make your athletes so calorie deficient that you would crash their metabolism and give them a bunch of drugs. His approach to dieting was a lot like what was his name? The guy who was coaching Stan Efferding, Flex Wheeler was coaching Stan Efferding.
Yeah.
He's like, you keep the protein consistently high, you play with the macros, fat and carbs, and you still leave their metabolism at a good state. So when they come off of everything, or when they stay on little drugs, or once they decide not to compete anymore, their metabolism doesn't completely crash.
That's a multi-pronged problem, though. And even Charles Poliquin went over this a little bit. It's dieting too long. If it takes you 24 fucking weeks to get ready for a show that you have in 24 weeks, you weren't ready. You're not ready.
You're a fat bastard.
Yeah.
You're a fat bastard.
You need to cut a little bit, take a break, cut a little bit, take a break. Diet breaks are a thing, and they're very real, and they're used by even movie stars to make transformations for movies. It becomes difficult because you have people, prescribing T3, and then, their competitor, just like that one girl, that comes off of it, and then all of a sudden she's eating the same amount of calories that she did on T3. Well, T3 regulates your metabolism, so
your thyroid hormone.
She was burning more, and now she's eating the same, and now it's difficult for her not to gain fat because she has very little T3, because once you take T3, your body says, hey, I don't need this T4 to T3 conversion, so I'm going to stop that for a little bit. It never turns off because of thyroid stimulating hormone, but it does say, hey, I'm not going to go through this process right now.
Yeah. Sorry for the background noise. I have family over, so
you're fine, man. You're fine. So that's not. Hey, we do no editing here. We're live and raw. Well, live in a week. But when it comes down to it, man, just and that's what it is. I mean, people reverse diet because they diet for too long. People reverse diet because they go, oh, you want to lose fat? Here's 2 hours of cardio. You lose 10 pounds, and your body's like, I must store water. This is hell.
It's ridiculous. It's not. It's bodybuilding, not body shrinking. Like when you're doing that much cardio, your body's like, I don't need this much muscle because this is a hindrance for what this dude wants me to do.
If you're relatively lean and you're doing more than 20 minutes of cardio, you need to reevaluate what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And I say that given, the information that I know about everybody being different and everything like that, because if you're doing more than 20 minutes, your training isn't intense enough. You aren't doing things right. You need to reevaluate. It's just it leads to more. You will eventually, with more than 20, 30 minutes of cardio, you will eventually eat into recovery. And that brings up the whole overtraining shit, undereating.
Yeah,
undereating.
Yeah,
You're undereating for your goals.
It's ridiculous. I mean, man, there's so many things that are wrong. I find that, and this is a quick little tip I've always used. Okay, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Laura. What's his name? What was her name? Dr. Laura, not Dr. Laura, Rhonda Patrick. That was on Joe Rogan's podcast,
Rhonda Patrick,
right?
Yes.
And she was talking about the circadian fasting thing, right?
Right.
And when I saw that episode, I'm like, I'm going to give it a try, and I must say, that makes sense, because when you wake up, whenever you wake up, okay, the first thing that you put in your body, aside from water, gets your metabolism going, and it would make sense that you would only have a 12-hour period where your body would be efficient in processing that. So ever since I started doing this, I know I try to, like a madman, try to eat within a 10-hour time frame.
Right.
And I've noticed crazy endurance in my in workouts, and as well as I'm putting on more lean muscle. Now, I've used this to put on weight and cut weight at the same time. To me, what I do is, like I'm a bottomless pit. Okay.
Yeah.
I could eat tremendous amounts of food. I mean, I know some people would have to eat like 5, 6, 7 meals a day because they can't just handle the volume. For me, that's not a problem. I could eat 1 meal a day within that 10-hour period. And I've actually done it where I eat 5,000 calories in one shot on a weekend. Yeah. And it took me all of an hour. And then after that, I was fine. So I use that to put on weight and cut weight, and it works perfectly, man. So fasting is very, very crucial, because I find that it makes you more insulin sensitive. And the more you become more insulin sensitive, the better your body could absorb that nutrient that you're putting in. Because that's one of the things apparently Stanford did with Hathor. He noticed that he was becoming desensitized to insulin. So it's not really what you eat. It is what you eat, but what you could digest and absorb.
Right. I will say this about fasting. If you're not eating, you're not eating, and I know that seems like common sense, but it also means you'll be less fat. So if you fast for a certain amount of time and you use that in order to get into your energy deficit, that's a perfectly good tool. If you're expecting to have results like Terry Crews off of intermittent fasting, he's doing it because of his time restraints. That's it. Yeah. And every person I say that to, it crushes their dreams. Terry Crews is incredibly busy. He has sometimes 12-hour shoots on set of Brooklyn Nine-Nine or what have you. He uses intermittent fasting to literally just so that he can get through the workday. And it also makes him look lean on camera. And
he's also a professional. He was a professional NFL athlete, a linebacker.
Right.
The man's been active all of his life. Not to mention I remember him on Battle Dome. I mean, this is where he was named T-Money, and that's one of my favorite characters about him. So he's been always in shape, So it's like you can't. This is what pisses me off. People be like, "Well, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that?" Like that guy. I'm like, or like me. I'm like, you don't have my genetics. You don't have his genetics. Genetics is a key factor. That doesn't mean that you should give up on everything. It's just that it's going to take you a little bit more time.
It also took him a shit ton of time to be where he's at. I mean, look at how many years he's been fucking lifting. Look at him when he was doing football. It's a whole nother ball game. He looks like a different person, and it's time. It's time under tension.
And that's what Mark Bell said. They said Mark Bell's like, everybody's surprised at an overnight success, but most overnight success are 20 years in the making.
Right. But I will say this, man. We're coming up on an hour, so I want to go ahead and ask you right now, what are your top lifts so people know your credentials here?
Okay, so cool. My top lifts, I have yesterday box squatted 770 on a 16-inch box, beltless, knee repless at a body over 230. I have floor pressed 465 for a triple at a body weight of 230. I have good mornings 2 years ago at a body weight of 220, 600 pounds. without a belt, and I high pulled 3 plates for like 6 reps, just like that. So I'm like Jamie. I like to do a lot of explosive movements, a lot of heavy compound movements, and I also include a lot of isolation stuff. So people call me the gym freak in Montreal. If you ever come up to Canada, every single hardcore gym I've been, people already know who I am. People remember me from 10 years ago. There's a reason why I got the name the Desi Hulk, because I do shit people are like, you should put that shit on YouTube, because that's the only time we see stuff like that.
Well, hey man, thanks for coming on, and I think we'll close out on that. So guys, if anyone, and I'm serious about this, something that we want to do different with this podcast is we want, if you've got, I mean, if you want to come on and have a chat with me, I'm open to anybody. You don't have to be in the fitness industry. You don't have to be anything like that, because everybody's got a story. That's what makes this gym life so great, is you have everybody from all walks of life in the gym training, and sometimes just like you'll find the strongest people you would have ever met in the gym, and nobody knows who they are. I mean, for fuck's sake, I talked to a guy who was in my gym, right? He's this older guy. He trained with Bill Pearl, which is like a 4 or 6 time Mr. Universe winner. And he gave me a little bit of knowledge from Bill Pearl. And he was talking about how he was, back in the day on Venice, in Venice, he was training with Bill Pearl. And he was talking about how he was doing 125 dumbbell flies and crazy stuff like that. Like, insane stuff. Nobody knows who he is in the fitness industry, right? But it's everyone's got a story, so we're interested in hearing it, and no other fucking podcast is doing this shit, so let's do it right.
And I want to say thank you very much, Bryce, for having me. I hope I didn't I hope I didn't lower the bar.
Oh no, you're fine, man.
I'm excited to be on.
It's awesome. It's awesome. We killed an hour. We killed it just like you're about to kill the pizza. So, if you like this video, go ahead and like this video. If you want to subscribe, right there is the pillow that I'm pointing to. Ignore the weeboo shit in the background, or don't. I look forward to your comments. And we will see you in the next one.
Yeah. Keep it real, people. Lift heavy, lift hard.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of your women. That is good.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. I just been living online, my city don't show me no love, and that's fine. Fuck local radio stations, I got more plays than all of these rappers combined. I'm going again, I've been going in, I'm fed up with so many things, I gotta just let it all out. I'm talking about the shit they've been talking about, telling me I should do this, telling me I should do that, telling me things about rap, talking the truth and that stab in my back, they will knock me off track. No, too many things have been building, been hard to deal with, I just been drinking. Remember my moves in the past, I'm wondering what was I thinking. Lately I'm living in fear, wondering what if the end is so near. All of this shit going on, the shootings are strong, one shot to the head and I'm gone. I'm losing control but I can't let it go, cause I'm trying to get more. And I've been in the moment, I've been in the zone, and I'm moving alone. I don't pick up the phone when my family call, I've been doing it wrong and I don't know what's happening. Trying to get what I just been imagining, getting close and I just been examining all of the fake shit the game has been packaging.
My Lord pleases you, Crom, so grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
I come from a town where most of the people are so close-minded. They go into school and they work in a job, but they don't even like it. I won't be put in a box, nobody telling me what I should rock, nobody telling me what I should drop, cause I do what I want and just know I don't stop. Recording till 4 in the morning, they snoring, I'm pouring my soul into every story. I'm writing, producing, I mix it, I master, I'm building my craft, and I'm not looking back. I've been going doing things I wanna do when I want to. Everybody wanna get away, but they not do. Everybody wanna copy you, but they not you. Everybody wanna be cool, but they not new. Whoa, look how I go, gonna be a dentist, I still got the flow. Never gonna lose cause I'm still doing both. Never gonna lose cause I've been on the road. Come to your state and I'm killing the show. Know that I'm young and I still gotta grow. Know that I'm working the most, know I'm never gonna choke, and I'm looking back down on the people below.
I've been keeping real, I've been doing what I feel. I've been out here trying to kill every beat, I know I will.